Hey everyone, today we are reading Mark chapter 7. We're going to be in part 1 today, which is verses 1 to 23. And in this passage, or in these verses today, Jesus has another run-in with the Pharisees and the religious leaders. And from just reading this and hearing the tone behind Jesus' just words, it went down. Just to set it up, this is what Mark says. He says, "One day some Pharisees and teachers of religious law arrived from Jerusalem to see Jesus. They noticed that some of his disciples failed to follow the Jewish ritual of hand washing before eating." And now Mark inserts some comments anecdotally to talk about the laws that the Pharisees had set up. In verse 3, he said, "The Jews, especially the Pharisees, do not eat until they have poured water over their cupped hands, as required by their ancient traditions. Similarly, they don't eat anything from the market until they immerse their hands in water. This is but one of many traditions they have clung to, such as their ceremonial washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles." So Mark is kind of giving us some background information here. If you'll remember about the law was set up by God, that's the key words there, in order to have humans have a way to make themselves right with God. Humans are broken. They sin. We sin every single day. And so God set up a way in the Old Testament, thousands of years prior, in order that man could make themselves right with God. Now, the Pharisees and the religious leaders had twisted and perverted the law and kind of made up their own laws that they practice and that they told others they needed to practice in order to make themselves right with God. But the truth is, none of that was from God, and Jesus calls them out on it. As I said, in his tone, you can just tell the righteous anger that he kind of has for the Pharisees telling people that they have to do this in order to make themselves right with God. And he says in verse 8, he says, "For you ignore God's law and substitute your own tradition." Then he said, "You skillfully sidestep God's law in order to hold on to your own tradition." He's calling them out here. He's saying that you have set up things, you have set up laws and called them God's law, when in fact, in so doing, you are completely turning your back on what God has set up as his law and the purpose behind it. And the purpose behind it is that people would be able to draw close to the heart of God. And Jesus goes on to tell about examples when they have done this other times. And he says, you are missing and completely turning people away from the heart of God and ignoring what Jesus points out as the most important commandments. And that is to love God and to love others. And in holding to the letter of the law so tightly, the laws that God hasn't even set up, that you have set up, you are completely missing the heart of God. And Jesus says, "It is what comes from inside that defiles you. For from within, out of a person's heart, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, wickedness, deceit, lustful desires, envy, slander, pride, and foolishness. All these vile things come from within. They are what defile you." He's saying that it's far more about the condition of your heart than what your actions portray. You could, I'm sure we could all very well say we can do actions, but in our heart, we're bitter, or we're impatient, or we are moving on to the next thing in our mind and not present. We can all say that. So Jesus is saying that it's what comes from your heart that matters. And that's what Jesus came to say. He came to say that, hey, look, I have come to fulfill this law. I have come so that you don't need to worry about the checklist of things to do in order to make yourself right with God. Instead, I have come that I have paid the price for all of your sin, all of the ways that your heart is far from God. And what I ask from you now is that you would love me, that you would chase after my heart, and in so doing, that you would turn around and love your neighbor. So today, focus on just that. Focus on chasing after God, in drawing near to Him, and then think of the ways that you can show that love for God to those in your life. Grace and peace to you. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
If these devotional videos are helpful to you, subscribe to our channel and click the notification button so you know when we post a new video. And of course, please share them with others.